It's been 3 years since the COVID pandemic, and the crime rate in major cities remains dangerously high. There were 24% more homicides in the first half of 2023 compared to the same period in 2019, according to one respected survey. And that was not only before COVID, but also before the violent unrest that led to calls for defunding the police. So when will our cities feel safer? Joining us now is Pastor Marc Little. He is the founder of Cure America Action, Inc. Pastor Little, welcome to the show. It's such an honor to have you on set with us here.
Lindsay, thank you for having me. I promised you I'd be here in studio with you because now I'm a Texan. It's so good to be with you.
Well, welcome to Texas as well. And you did keep your promise by coming here on set. So we're so glad to have you. You know, the interesting thing I will say, Pastor, is we are seeing crime come down some, but as I mentioned, it's still much higher than it was 4 years ago. What do you see as the underlying cause of this right now?
Thank you for the question. As you know, I am a victim of violent crime. I call myself really a survivor. I was shot by a gang member in Los Angeles. But beyond that, we really have a law and order problem in our nation right now. Why is that? Just as the radical left is attempting to redefine gender in our culture, we have soft on crime district attorneys who are attempting to redefine how we feel about crime in our neighborhoods. And they want us to believe that they're fighting systemic racism by not prosecuting criminals. Well, that's the problem. Crime is crime, whether it is violent or non-violent. If you look at District Attorney Alvin Bragg, and you look at District Attorney Fox in Chicago, they're letting out more people who are committing crimes than it seems they're keeping. And what I call it is the normalization of crime in our nation. It's a Marxist ideology, by the way, creating lawlessness and ultimately anarchy. Because how long are we going to sit by and watch our neighborhood stores be looted and then shut down stores and we can't even get food anymore? Here's what people don't understand, Lindsay. Part of this is in partnership, maybe tacit and not direct. But part of this is in partnership with the cartel. We see all these smash and grabs, and we thought that maybe it's just neighborhood gangs doing it. But no, in fact, cartel is doing it. Cartels are doing it. And we have to stand up and we have to say, we recognize that this is just not petty criminals who need a way of life and need to feed themselves, but it's a part of organized crime in our nation. And we have to stand up and stopped re-electing district attorneys who are tacitly approving of it.
Well, let me ask you about that, because we're seeing that this crime is actually affecting minority communities, communities of color, some people who are less fortunate. So how should the Christian community stand up, support those communities, but also stand up for justice?
Thank you so much. And this is what I do at Cure America Action. I mobilize people to understand how to respond to what's happening in our communities. Black and brown communities are disproportionately impacted. I just moved in from Los Angeles. Yes, Beverly Hills was impacted, but not like our communities, not like our malls, where Walmarts are shutting down. Big box stores are shutting down. Mom and pop stores are shutting down. And what we have to do as a community, particularly a community of small businesses. I used to run the Chamber of Commerce in my town. Small businesses have to get together, whether in organized associations or in individual capacities, to stand up and look at the cause. The cause is related to district attorneys who have been, in some measure, elected by the dollars of George Soros, and say no more. If you're not going to convict violent criminals, while, by the way, our nieces and nephews who are rightly in jail for committing crimes, but we see these other folks who are now doing it under the leadership of these district attorneys and not going to jail for it. They're not doing restorative justice. They're not prosecuting criminals. What we have to do is come together as a community. And we have to stand against re-electing people who don't have the best heart of our communities at the forefront of their agendas. This is an agenda. And if the community doesn't stand up and stand against the agenda, these folks will keep getting re-elected, and our communities will continue to suffer great harm.
I think it's so important that you point out that this is an agenda and for people to rise up. It's not happenstance. And I think that's a good call to the Christian community, because God is a God of justice, but God is a God of love. And when you have these people who are trying to change the course on purpose. We have to rise up against that. Pastor Little, always good to see you. Thank you for your insight this evening.
God is a God of righteousness and justice.
Amen.
Both go together.